Hi, so one of the main questions I get these days is, can I afford to buy a home right now? And there's several factors as to why this question keeps coming up. Some of the most obvious ones are home prices have really risen dramatically over the last, say, 4 or 5 years. And then we've also seen interest rates in the last couple of years rise rather rapidly as well. And while from a historic standpoint, interest rates are about normal, they're not normal when you factor in where they were, like I said, 3 years ago, and they've essentially doubled since then. And that's what's really made it difficult for buyers to get their arms around how can they afford all of this. And so, first of all, with regards to home prices and how they've appreciated, what I can tell you is right now, we are seeing just a little bit of a softening in the market that's going on. Home prices in certain areas are coming down some. They're not crashing by any stretch of the imagination, but they are easing up just a little bit. And then more importantly, sellers are willing to work with buyers now, whereas maybe even 6 months ago, they weren't willing to do. And how a seller can help a buyer is with seller concessions. And we've discussed this in the past, where they can help cover some of your closing costs. And then in addition to that, they can possibly give us enough funds that we can buy down the interest rate and make the payment a little bit lower, even though the home prices haven't really come down that much. If I can get it a little bit lower interest rate, that'll help with the payment. And in fact, in many ways, lowering the rate does more for you than actually lowering the sales price. Again, I've gone over these in the past. I'm not going to go into it today, but just keep that in mind. Secondly, what is happening is there's a lot of people that are concerned about down payment. There's still this big myth out there that you have to have this huge down payment. And the truth of the matter is, if you're a first-time home buyer, most of the time you're looking at 3 to 5% down is all that you're required to have. And you don't even necessarily have to be a first-time home buyer in order to use FHA, where it's a 3.5% down payment minimum. And then of course, if you're a veteran, you could potentially get in with 0 down. So this fact that you have to have all this money for down payment, again, just a big myth. And I think that's something that is stopping several people, because they're sitting there thinking, okay, home prices are so high, rates are so high, I don't have a big down payment, I can't do this. And again, none of that is exactly true. We can definitely look at ways to help you out here. And then lastly, sometimes people, they just want to know what they can afford that's within their budget from a realistic standpoint. And that's where we come in. What I can tell you is, do yourself a favor, set up a time to either meet with me in person, meet with me over video. We can even have a phone call, right? And just go over your basic information, your basic needs, your basic budget. And then I can give you realistically what you'd be looking at for a payment. We have several buyers that we're working with right now that are able to get homes. They're out a little ways. Some are like out in Santan, some are out in Maricopa. So it's a little bit further out, but they're able to get a reasonable price on these homes. We're able to do some things with some concessions, and they're getting monthly payments that are in the $2,000, maybe $2,200, $2,300 range. And that's basically in line with what you would pay for a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. So if you could own a home, if you could own a 3-bedroom home for that monthly payment, that would be much better than spending your money on rent. So again, do yourself a favor, set up a time, call me, text me, we'll set up an appointment. And again, we can either meet in person, over video, or you just even have a conversation over the phone just to go through some of those budgetary concerns that you might have. And let's see if we can't get you into a house here in 2025. All right, listen, I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please do me a favor, subscribe to our page here. And if you feel that this would be helpful to any of your friends, family, coworkers, feel free to share it with them as well. We're always here to help you, always here to assist. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.